Hey everybody, I want to introduce you to our latest sponsor, Salt Electrolytes. Feeling depleted after a tough grappling session? Well, Salt targets your depleted electrolyte levels with a boost of hydration and health. It gives your body the baseline recovery it needs. Salt contains 6 different electrolytes with a touch of iodine to help maintain a healthy thyroid. No sugar, no dyes, no bullshit. Go earn your salt. Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of the BJJ Foxcast. I'm your host, Alex Martinez, and I'm here without my co-host. He bailed on me because he didn't want to do a late show. But I'm here with my new friend, Jake O'Driscoll, second-degree black belt under Ed Moraes, out of Perth, Australia. This is my first one with anyone from Australia, so welcome to the show, brother.
Oh, nice, man. I really appreciate you having me on. That's always an honor. We got some real talent out here in Australia, so to be the first one, I'm really happy about that. I'll hold that over the other guys for sure.
Awesome, man. So, hey, I want to get right into it, and I usually start kind of, I don't really go with the kind of the path you took in jiu-jitsu. We'll definitely get to that, but I really want to hear about the Essence Mentor Program. That really caught my eye, and I saw a lot of really good reviews on that. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, so that's something that I've been doing for a little while now. So basically what it is like if you think of like a weightlifting program or a nutrition plan or something like that, it's very similar. So I'll link up with an athlete or a hobbyist depending on what your goals are, and basically just schedule out a 6-week block of training for you. So on a Monday, I'll tell you what you need to focus on. On a Tuesday or Wednesday, we'll break it down. We'll go note reviews, we'll go video reviews. If you have a competition coming up, we'll game plan for that. I'll study your opponents. There's different levels to it. Obviously, the top level would be someone like your Adele Fornarino, who I'm obviously linked with. That's your top level, and then below that we got a little bit different. But basically, man, it's just like a way for me to be able to help the athletes and the hobbyists to skill development at a faster rate, but also learn how to do that for themselves as well if they wanted to go and focus on that themselves. For the athletes, it's a way for me to help you go from being good at jiu-jitsu to being great at jiu-jitsu. And that's something that I feel like I have experience in and can really help with. And yeah, it's been working really well, man. We've got a lot of people. It's obviously after ADCC, a lot more people from around the world were able to link up and send me messages and jump on the program. Usually it was just kind of normal or unless I traveled somewhere and was able to pick a couple of people up. But now it's pretty consistently worldwide, which is nice.
Yeah, that's I find that, getting into the gym and getting, putting in the hard work, I find that's the easy part. The hard part is, dialing in the diet, being disciplined with your weightlifting and your recovery, right? What kind of protocols do you follow for recovery for your athletes?
For my athletes, I mean, it's individual because I feel like it really depends on, what they prefer, what they like, and how much time they have. For me, it's always going to be sleep first. I know that's the obvious answer, but I'll try and make sure any of my athletes are having a good sleep schedule, and we'll also structure like naps and things around. Some of my athletes aren't full time, so they might have to work, and some of them work security and stuff like that, so they have to work late at night. So I'll make sure that their sleep schedule is a little bit different. Then your basics, your hydration, and then I always advocate to do as much as you possibly can. Like at the moment I've moved house, so I don't have it. But when I was at my previous house, I had a sauna, I had an ice bath, I have recovery boots, I have an acupuncture mat, I stretch, everything. I see a massage therapist, I see a chiropractor. Like, people don't understand, like, to be a professional, these are the minimum. These aren't extras. These are like, for you to perform at your best, you need to put yourself in the best condition. Now, when you're younger, you may not need as much as that. I get that. You may only need, one sauna a week or one ice bath a week or whatever makes you feel the best, right? Yeah. But that doesn't mean you just skip it because you only do one. What I mean? We need to make sure that whatever it is, you're dialed in on it all the time. So Adele won't do an ice bath. She just won't do it. There's no point in me forcing her to do it because the recovery benefits for her are going to be so minimal that the mental strain it takes for her to do probably doesn't weigh up, right? Yeah. But she'll stretch every single day. If I ask her to stretch for 30 minutes, she'll stretch for 30 minutes. If I ask her to study for 30 minutes, she'll study for 30 minutes. So there's other things that, we just make sure are on point. So it's really individualized, man. But myself, I try and do as much as possible. I'm getting old. I'm getting older. I'm feeling my body. I'm not that old, but I feel like I've been around for a long time, and I still train as much as I can I train probably more than my athletes, to be fair. So trying to keep up with them is difficult. I'm always doing a recovery.
Yeah. Are you a big ice bath guy?
I was, yeah, I had an ice bath and I would do it every single day. I don't have it at the moment. I'm just building an apartment, so I'm basically in between accommodation at the moment. When I finish that, I will. But I did have one yesterday. My mate owns a gym that has one, and I just hit him up and was like, "Can I get down and get in?" And I do enjoy it, but I preferred it more for like I hate it so much that it's like those little wins you have, the little wins you have during the day. Like
Yeah.
I don't feel like it gave me the recovery that like if I missed it, I was gonna not be as good. But for
Right.
me, it was like it was a small thing I could do every day where my mind was like no, and my body was like yes, and I get a small win. So I prefer that benefit.
Yeah, I find well, I do an ice bath twice a week. So I kind of have like the perfect scenario. My physical therapist and my one of my trainers, they're in the same building. So I go see
Mm,
my PT and then I go into the recovery room and we do a little
nice.
recovery protocol. And I always tell myself like I don't want to be in this, but I need it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
yeah,
Yeah, it's just one of those things, man. The more the sport gets to a professional stage, the more people are going to understand that these things aren't, like we say, they're not extras. They're the bare minimum, man. And
yeah,
I say this, you mentioned it before, like the training is the easy part. Like when I have my athletes be like, man, I trained like 6 days this week. I'm like, that's exactly what you're supposed to be doing. Like, well, I'm not going to pat you on the back for that. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like, this is
yeah.
your job. You know what I mean? Like LeBron James doesn't pat himself on the back because he finished 4 training sessions that week.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
like that's what you do. It is what we do. So yeah.
Yeah, and and speaking of guys like LeBron, I mean, it's going to vary individual by individual, of course, but from what I understand, he spends like something ridiculous, like 20% of his income on just recovery and training and just keeping himself. He's the oldest NBA player, I believe, right now, and he's still
Yeah.
doing a great job.
Yeah. And like these kind of blueprints, man, we can follow. And this is what I try and do with the athletes that I coach specifically to be great in jiu-jitsu or achieve big things. Like we do not have to reinvent the wheel for jiu-jitsu. It's there. Just nobody follows it. You know what I mean? So I've taken a lot from a lot of different sports and a lot of different coaches from different sports and put that into our programs and the way I structure things for the athletes. And it's all there for us. You know what I mean? Like LeBron, you can't compare LeBron to the rest of the NBA, right? Because LeBron doesn't want to be like the rest of the NBA. He wants to be great. He
Yeah,
wants to be in that discussion with MJ and Kobe, etc. And Kobe was the same, right? We talk about Kobe's mindset and things like that. And everyone goes wild about, man, he'd get up at 4 a.m. and he's already sweating and blah 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 because he didn't want to be good. He wanted to be great. There's a difference.
yeah,
If you want to be good, that's okay. You do what it takes. But usually the athletes that I'm working with or trying to work with, they don't want to be good, man. They're already good. Most of them come to me and they already are good,
wow,
but they want to be great. And there's a difference in that. And I feel like that's definitely something I'm working on and getting better at and helping with. Adele is obviously the best example of that, but I've got a few others that are coming through that have that potential as well. But that's something that's not really seen right now in the jiu-jitsu scene. So it's a bit of a taboo topic. And we do cop a little bit of a heat for it. But anybody that tries to change the game or do something different always is going to cop heat. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Until
yeah,
until
yeah,
until it works, and then
yeah.
it's like, oh, that was the way the whole time, and you're like, yeah, yeah, I know.
Yeah, yeah. And when it comes to martial artists, it's a little bit different because you can spot the great ones almost immediately, right? Or the
Hmm.
most talented ones, I guess. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And then when you kind of reverse engineer, how they got from to the mat to that world championship, I don't want to say it's the same, but they all have similarities, right? They all have some things in common. What do you think it is that the most dominant people in jiu-jitsu all have in common, whether it's mental or physical? What's your opinion on that?
It's mental. I think it's 100% mental, and especially this day and age. I think there's so much opportunity for resources and knowledge and gaining knowledge. You know what I mean? Like one thing that I've done my whole career is just reach out and ask questions when I need to people I don't even know me. Like
Yeah.
if I wanted to learn from Keith Krikorian, I just message him on Instagram. He's either going to reply or he's not. Like if he
Yeah.
doesn't, okay, move to the next one. Like it's not a big deal, right? But like seek that knowledge. So the technique part of it, we can always fix. We can always, make sure that, if there's a mistake, we can improve it. And if we don't know something, we can find out, right? But what separates the good from the great is upstairs. And it's not just doing the bare minimum, which is your work. It's doing the extras, but doing it like you love it. You know what I mean? And this is again, quotes and stories throughout history from, I'll use athletes as an example, but you could take musicians, you could take businessmen, anyone, right? But we'll use athletes as an example. They've told you this for years. You know what I mean? Even Mike Tyson was talking about this, talking about discipline for years and years. Now, obviously, money can change things. I get that. But to a point before he had the money, the dude was an animal for a reason. And it was because he was doing the small things every single day for a long, consistent period of time. So we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We just need to translate it over to the jiu-jitsu scene and go, okay, that's what it is. At the moment, the talent pool was so small, you can get away with not doing that. Now the talent pool is massive. Yeah, it's so big. You were able to have ADCC and CJI on the same weekend, and both events had world-class athletes that could have transitioned over and won either event. You know what I mean? Nicky Rod could have won that event. Tynan could have won that event. And vice versa. Mika could have gone across, Cade could have gone, et cetera, right? It goes down the track. So the talent pool is so big now. It's not enough to be talented anymore. It's not enough to train more than anybody else. You have to start being a professional. And when I talk about a professional, I don't just mean you as an individual. Your coach needs to be a professional. The way that I treat Adele is the same way that she treats me. I treat it like a professional, and so does she. And it goes down the line. She's got a manager. If we call her manager and we're like, hey, where's the contract for this, this, and this? And the manager's like, oh man, like I'm going to take a week off because I want to go to the Bahamas. No, that's not how we do it. Her manager is amazing, Sarah Rafferty. She's the best, but I wasn't talking about her. But just in general, man, the whole team works like that. It's not an individual. You know what I mean? And that's where I think the sport is going. We've seen snippets of it with Danaher. I think Danaher is like your first professional coach but I don't think he really wants to transcend or change the sport in that regard. He just wants to make great athletes, and that's what he's done his whole career. Yeah. Whereas I feel like we can really make a change in this space and be kind of the front runners of like, this is the way things are going to go.
Do you think coaches are almost sticking to their niche a little bit too much, and maybe not growing as far as like learning more about diet, learning more about recovery, studying the science to help their athletes? Do you think coaches are, I don't want to call them lazy, but they're kind of complacent in that regard?
Yeah, so this is a hot topic because I get a lot of heat for this. Like, I agree, yes, but also no, because if you come in my gym and I'm just running my gym and you're a world-class athlete, you cannot expect me to take you to the great level. Because I didn't ask for that. I just asked to have my gym. You chose to be here.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah. But if you come to me and be like, hey, I want to be a world champion, and I say I can get you there, and then I don't do the things to help you to get there, then yeah, that's lazy and complacent. And I think there's a lot of that, right? And again, the way I try and look at this is like, there are so many basketball leagues around the world, but only so many NBA coaches. Yeah. It's the same thing. I can go and play rec basketball like I'm LeBron James. It doesn't make me LeBron James. Yeah. I can go and coach rec basketball. I'm coaching the same game that, Phil Jackson is coaching, but not at the level that he's coaching it. And you cannot expect me in the rec center to be Phil Jackson. So it really, in turn, it comes down to the athlete taking responsibility and accountability to who they're surrounding themselves with. And if you can't get that in the room that you're in or with the person that you're in, seek it out. Most of my athletes do not represent my gym, and I never ask them to, because it's not part of what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to build my gym. My gym is separate. My gym is for me. It is for my people. It is for our team, right? And if you are here every day, of course, I will help you. But you don't need to wear my logo for us to work together. It doesn't bother me, right? So I understand that if one of my guys is like, hey, I need to go and work with, Adele to get better, I'm like, you do what you need to do.
Yeah.
I feel like I can do this, but if you don't, that's completely up to you. And a lot of coaches don't do that anymore. They get a good student or they get a few good students and they want to hoard them because that validates them as coaches. I prefer to be validated in myself. I know I can teach jiu-jitsu, and I know I can coach jiu-jitsu, and I know I can compete in jiu-jitsu. Nobody in the world is going to tell me that I can't, because I know I can. Yeah. Because I think I can. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But there's so much validation that external these days that you just let it go, man. You know what I mean? It's okay that if someone gets to a level with you and then has to go further. Because same thing, man. LeBron James' high school coach is not his professional coach. He helped him to a spot, and then he helped him get further.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then if you hear LeBron talk, he talks about his high school coach all the time.
Yeah.
His high school coach didn't pull him back. He
Yeah.
pushed him up. And it happens so much in jiu-jitsu these days, man. You know, people want to reach out, oh, can we do like, can you help me? But like privately, no. Because if you don't have the discipline to talk to your coach, or you don't have the confidence to talk to your coach, we can't work together, because you're going to hinder our progress. Because there's going to be a point where I need you to do something, or I need something out of you, and you can't do it because you can't have that difficult conversation.
Yeah. What you're doing is definitely a disruption to the whole industry, and that's probably why you're catching some heat. But
Yeah.
I completely understand, and I agree because you know, when I own a small academy here in Arizona, and
Mm,
I love coaching. I love teaching, and I have some very talented jujitsu you know, players in there, and some of them
hmm
that have the potential to compete at a pretty high level. Um,
Yep.
but I flat out tell them, you know, if your needs change, you go where where you know they can be fulfilled. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I tell Adele this all the time.
Yeah,
Like, there's going to be a day when we split, because there's going to be a time, whether it's me just getting too old to travel with you, and it's too much of a toll on me to be doing as much work as I do, or you're going to outgrow my abilities and need someone else. I know this. This is okay. I tell my students all the time, if I am the only resource you have for jiu-jitsu, you're selling yourself short, because
yeah,
there's so much research out there. Now, I strongly believe in what I can do and what I can show you and what I can give you. But that doesn't mean that I'm the only person that can do that. And this is where the heat kind of gets a bit rickety, because it's like, I'm not telling you that this is the only way. I'm not telling you my way is the right way. I'm just telling you how we do things and how I view things. There is zero wrong with just running an academy and living that life and loving it. Like,
yeah,
there is zero wrong with that, man.
yeah,
If you think that someone who's trying to achieve greatness or trying to do more is looking down on you, you're the problem, man. Because
yeah,
I'm not looking back and being like, so and so is only running his academy. What a joke. Man, I don't care. Like, I'll visit, I'll come and
yeah,
train. Like, I'll love it. Like, it doesn't bother me, man. So
yeah,
like, it only gets to people that can't, they're not happy with themselves, I would say. You know what I mean? So they want to be like, oh, this is wrong. This is wrong. It could be,
yeah,
I could turn around in a year and be like, man, everything we did, that was completely off. But at the moment, doesn't look like it. It looks like we're doing it pretty good. You know what I
yeah.
mean? So
Have you always been true to yourself that way? Have you always had that? Has that always been part of your you know,
no,
personality? No? Okay.
no, not at all, man. I definitely, for a long time, seek outside validation for my jiu-jitsu. Wanted to win certain tournaments so other people thought I was good. Wanted to train with certain people so people thought I was good. And then I just got to a point, man, where it was like, it's never enough. There's
Yeah.
always more. It's never enough. There's how much can I win before, the only thing I don't have on my resume is like a major at black belt, right? Like a Nogi world title or a PANS or something, like I've done well at trials. I've made the quarters. I've won international belts. I've won the biggest tournaments in Australia. There's no other black belt besides Adele that has a major world title. So like,
Wow.
Lachlan didn't do it. Craig didn't do it. Isaac hasn't done it. And this is not knocking these guys at all. They're fucking phenomenal and they are world class. But if that is your measuring stick for who is good at jiu-jitsu, then we all fail. You know what I
Mm,
mean? I was able to figure out that I can bring certain things to jiu-jitsu outside of like just titles. And that allowed me to compete more freely and express myself better. So then I did have more success. And regardless of whether I was ever to go to ADCC or win a world title, I am happy with my career, man. I'm happy with what I've done. And I'm not going to stop now. Like, I'll compete until I roll over and die. But
yeah.
no title is going to change the fact that I know I'm good at jiu-jitsu and I enjoy jiu-jitsu. And if you let me, I can help you with jiu-jitsu. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, the only thing it changes is your view of me. And unfortunately, your view of me is not the view I have of myself, quoting Deion Sanders. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So
Yeah.
that don't really matter.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that. And it took me a long time to get there too, like where I was seeking that outside validation. And, you know, I had some things that I quit when I was younger, and that, you know, I tell people this all the time. Sometimes, you know, you can't forgive yourself for that quit. Like your self-worth will never match that quit. And I think
Yep.
it really didn't hit me that I really loved who I was until I found jujitsu. And that was kind of later
Yep.
in life. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And I say this all the time. Jiu-jitsu literally peeled me open and showed me who I really was. And I love that
Yep.
guy. So
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah, exactly. And I was very similar, man. I came from a very sporting background. I played like state level football and thought I was going to go to the pros and things like that. But I was like semi lazy, man. I would like hang in like the middle to top of the group, not push myself, not exert myself, just do enough in a game to like people knew I was playing, but also like not enough to get exhausted. And when I left football for jiu-jitsu, I was like, I am never doing that again in
good for you.
anything that I do. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? I'm going to make sure that I'm the hardest worker in the room every single time, man. And I was talking about this last night with a friend. Like, it's a blessing and a curse because now everything I do it at 100. But at the same time, I can't do things because I have to do it at 100. So we were talking about like video games. I can only play like NBA or NFL because it's repetitive, right? And after an hour, I get bored, turn it off. If I play, a game where you got to go through it and evolve and get levels, and bro, I'll play for 24 hours because I want it. Like I can't stop. I'm like, I got to do it. I got to do it. So like, I just don't let
good
myself
for you.
do it. I'm like, pull myself away.
Yeah, yeah. When did you make that transition from football to jiu-jitsu? Well, how old were you?
Literally like 19. So like, I thought I was getting drafted. Classic Aussie story, man. Aussie rules football. Everyone thinks that age they're getting drafted. I spoke to a few teams and they told me I wasn't fit enough. So we hired a professional boxing coach, started doing some private lessons with him. He told me I should roll with some guys. I was like, no way, that looks stupid. Ended up doing it. They smashed me and I literally quit football on the spot, man. Didn't go back. And like I was still part of like it's like a semi-pro league, like it's decent, and my family were very upset. You're just quitting because you didn't get drafted, blah, blah, blah. But I just knew, man, like I knew I could do this for the rest of my life. And now everyone's like, oh, yeah, like, we get it now. But at the time, 15 years ago, it wasn't a thing. You could only train a couple of times a week. There wasn't any superstars or anything like that. It was very infant stage. But I just knew, man, that this is what I wanted to do and this is what I could do. And I just stuck at it, man. And now it looks good. But I went through a lot of hard times. I went through times I wanted to quit, and I went through times I had no money and trying to travel, and relationship breakdowns because of how much I do jiu-jitsu. And every story that you can think of, I've definitely experienced. But now that's part of my story, right? That's what I can pass on to. Again, I'm not that old, but the younger generation coming through who have more opportunity. Like, yeah, I can speak from experience, not from, oh, I think this is going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think and this is going to be a little controversial because I hate asking this question, but what do you think the newer generation is getting right, and what are they getting wrong about the sport of jiu-jitsu?
They're getting the social media wrong, 100%. They're getting that wrong. Like, I did a podcast on this morning actually, about social media and the presence and things like that. That they're 100% getting wrong. I think the right kids are getting the right work ethic. I think they need to understand that although someone like myself went all in and some others go all in, I wouldn't advocate that for my daughter. Like, I think you should have something backing you up. You know what I mean? Because some of us are able to make a living from jiu-jitsu, but it's very hard. It's difficult. And you really got to love it. Like, you really have to love it, man. You really do, because even if you do make a little bit of money or you're able to sustain the lifestyle, it's rough. You know what I mean? But I think the social media is the biggest part, man. There's so much like crap and talk and people just disrespecting each other, and it's so easy to do. And they want to sell themselves to get super fights, and you just don't need to do it, man. You just don't. And like, I said this to Adele, right? 12 months ago, Adele, was in a position where she was winning some majors. She won Nogi Euros, Nogi Pans. She probably wasn't getting the opportunity she thought she deserved. And, I just said to her, she started to kind of go down a little bit of a track where she started to talk a little bit. And I was just like, Del, this is not you. This is not who you are as a person. She's like, oh, yeah, but I'll get noticed. I'll get this. And she's getting a bit of advice from everywhere. And I was like, look, trust me, we're going to get to a point where you are undeniable, where they're going to have to put you on cards and they're going to have to pay you money because you are the best in the world. And if they don't, they're going to look like a joke. You know what I mean? Like, the UFC would not be the UFC if they didn't have that caliber of fighter.
Yeah.
Yeah. But because they do, they can promote themselves as the best in the world, right? The UFC champ can say, I'm the best in the world. So we had this conversation, and thankfully, one of a few things she trusted me on, and she stopped talking and she started working. And then the results started to come, right? And then the daddy persona comes in. Well, that's actually her. Yeah, okay, it's a nickname and it's funny, but she is gay and she does enjoy being gay, and she would never shy away from that. So that is, her persona. So when she does do that on the internet, that's just an evolution of her. That's not her plan of character. So it's more authentic and it's real.
Yeah.
Now she can be on any card she wants in the world, and she don't have to talk shit to anyone. Her jiu-jitsu does her talking. And like, it's hard, man, because I get it. You want to talk, or it's easier, you know what I mean? But nobody cares, man. Like, you really don't, because I care. Like, the people that really care are the ones that love jiu-jitsu, not what you said.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, that's probably the thing they're getting wrong, man. And I think they're getting it wrong because our generation, or the older generation, is encouraging it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Promoters. I had a kid in my gym he's 16, man, and he's not at school. He trains full time, and he had a super fight coming up. And again, he's a blue belt. So when we say super fight, like, for him, it's the biggest thing in the world.
Right.
But for me, I'm like, bro, you're gonna have a heap of. Anyway, the promoter was pushing him and his opponent to talk shit about each other. So he put up a little story and whatnot, and I just said to him, I was like, it wasn't even that bad. It was just like, I'm gonna crush this guy or something like that. And I just said to him, look, man, take it down. We don't do that. You don't do that. That's not who you are as a person. We don't do that in this gym. If you want to do that, that's fine. Do it somewhere else, because I'm not going to have it, right? He listened. He took it down. Didn't talk again. Promoter probably got mad. Then he put on the performance of a lifetime, destroyed this kid that was supposed to beat him, gave a funny as hell post-fight speech, because he is a funny kid and he's a very nice kid. And then that went viral, especially in Australia. And now I got super fight promotions asking me, oh, who's the kid that was on that show? Or who's the kid that did that? Not because he's talking shit, because he did what he was supposed to do. And now promoters want to work with him, and he gets opportunities. And that's what I said to him. I was like, bro, you can do this without having to change who you are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, it can happen, but a lot of people want to take the easier way and the easier route and try and, shit talk into things that they're not ready for, or shit talk themselves into a position that, is not going to last. It's just not.
Yeah. And I guess the big question I always ask myself, and sometimes I'll ask myself in the moment, and I'll give you an example, is, is this how you want to be remembered? Right.
Yeah.
And because it's about how you make people feel that they remember.
Yeah.
Not right. And I was at Master Worlds, and I think it was my second match, and this guy played a deep half, and I remember I pushed his face into the mat. I stepped over. I tried to do a knee cut, but he had strong legs, so at one point I had both knees on him. One was on his chest, one was on his face, and I'm on top of him going, this is how I'm going to be remembered. I can't believe I'm doing it. I was ashamed of myself, but he wouldn't let go.
Yeah.
He wouldn't break.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, it's a small example, but you're right. Once it's on social media, it's there forever. And if you can delete it, but somebody probably screenshotted it and they're going to drop it. So.
Yeah. And man, I say this, but this is probably the area that I stuff up the most, man. I'm trying to get better at it. I'm pretty upfront. I'm pretty authentic. I'm pretty loyal. You know what I mean? Like, I've struggled. I tell Adele this all the time. Like, I don't really go on her posts, because when people start talking shit about her on there, I get real defensive. And like, I'm old school, like, in terms of like, if we have a problem, I'd rather you just come and we lock the door and sort it out than go back and forth on social media. I don't like it. But there's so much passive aggressiveness, and I've been caught out in it so many times, man, especially, when you do start to get to that next level where I will bite back or put a passive aggressive post back myself. And every time I do it, man, I'm like, what are you doing? Like, just why? What is the point of that? Just let it go, man. So post ADCC, Adele's dealt with it a lot. I've dealt with it a lot, man, where it's like, you see this stuff and you want to just be like, man, grow up. Like, why are you so unhappy? But at the same time, it's like, why bother? Like, we're doing shit over here. Like, why bother? Just let it go, man. It's all good. So that's, I talk about this stuff to give to my athletes and stuff, but I definitely am not perfect. I never claim to be perfect, and it's a work in progress. And that's probably the one that I'm the worst at, man, is like the social media aspect of not biting my tongue when I should, and just being, the bigger person about some things.
And what do you think the younger generation is getting right?
I think they're starting to understand that they need to be more professional. I think they're seeing that. You know what I mean? I think they're understanding. A lot of the younger kids I work with, I've got 3 in the gym, 4 in the gym that are really have a lot of potential. And they do their notes, they do their study, they eat right, they drink, they don't go out. You know, like one of the boys is turning 18, and for us, that's legal age in a couple of months. And, you know, he just wants to go on a training trip. He doesn't want to go and party. And, you know, I think they're getting a lot better at that. But what I say to them is it's consistency over time, man. It's not 3 months here, 3 months there. You know, it is 10 years, 15 years of like doing that consistent. And before you might even get a breakthrough, you know what I mean? Like I've been coaching for a coach when I started when I was a blue belt. So let's say 12 years ish, 13 years ish before I had someone win ADCC. So like, you know what I mean? Like it's a long time, you know what I mean? And the amount of people that have come through my space of coaching and helping that were talented and were exceptional and were great at jiu-jitsu who just didn't have it, you know what I mean? And or we didn't link up properly, or you know, they didn't enjoy my coaching style, which is completely fine. Like it happens a lot, man. So consistency over time, over like fight camps, or like what do you call it? Like I forgot the word, man. It's on the tip of my tongue. Where you like divide up the year into like training cycles and
like
things like that, man.
Like different.
Yeah,
seasons.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like we don't have a season, man. Especially like if you want to be the great, you know what I mean? Like we when I talk about Adele, we're already talking about ADCC 2026.
Wow.
Like, you know, we're not training. We haven't started planning,
Yeah.
but what we want to do and how we want to do it and what we can improve and all these things, man. They're already and what her goals are. You know what I mean? Like we sat down like 2 days after, and it was crazy because I was gonna let her be. I was just like, okay, just give her a time. And she came to me like, hey, this is great, but I want this. And I'm like, okay, well, we can do that. Or like, this is how we're gonna do it. You know what I mean? And now we have a plan over the next, you know, the Fion match is probably the one that everyone wants and they want to see that, and we want it, and like 100% we want it as well. But there's a process to it, and there's some things I want Adele to do first before she gets that match, and it's all marked out, man. It's all in the schedule. It's all like timed out, and she knows, and I know that it'll happen because we plan for it and we prepare for it. So I think the younger generation are getting a lot better at that, man.
Yeah, I had a conversation. I have a kid. He's 12 years old and he's really talented. He's one of the bigger kids for his age, but he's got his mobility's good. He's
Mm.
got good control of his body. You know, I call them my Great Dane puppies, you know, the big kids because
Yeah,
they're
yeah, 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 yeah.
he's not that way. He's very skilled and he's very good at doing like the move of the day that
Yep,
day. I mean, I
yep.
really admire that. And you know, he and I were talking and he was talking about maybe, you know, getting a little bit more serious about competition and all that stuff. And I just told him, I said, if you want to make this your life, then, you know, then you're going to have to sacrifice some things, right? There's, you know, birthdays and, you know, holidays, stuff like that. I said, but if you want to have fun, have fun. Don't
Mm.
schedule tournaments a week after a holiday. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Those the things.
yeah, yeah, of course.
But if, as I said, if your desire is to turn pro, open a school one day, and be, you know, a world champion, then you're gonna have to sacrifice some things. And unfortunately, it starts pretty soon because these kids are starting
Yeah,
earlier and earlier now.
way earlier. Yeah, yeah. So with that, man, it's not wrong at all. My take on that is though, like I don't like to use the word sacrifice because to me they're choices,
Mm,
and those things are what separate the good from the great. Is making those choices and living with those choices. So the two words I use the most, man, are accountability and responsibility. You know what I mean? You're
yeah.
accountable to yourself and your team and your coach, and you're responsible for the decisions you make. If I miss an event, that's my decision, man. That's not a sacrifice. I chose to miss that event. Therefore, I live or die with the consequences. That's what it takes to be at that level, man. You know what I mean? If you don't, this is what I keep telling people, and this is the part people don't listen to. If you want to go on that holiday or you want to go to that birthday or you want to get drunk with your mates, do that. Nobody is judging you. Nobody is saying to you, you're a bad person or you're wrong or that's wrong. Or, they're not. But don't turn around and expect to be like an Adele and be great
Yeah.
when you're not doing the things that she's doing. And that's where I get upset, man, because it's like, we don't judge you, but you judge us for wanting to be great.
Mm,
Like it doesn't, it has to go both ways, right? You
yeah.
either do or you don't. And we make that choice, man. And we take whatever it is that comes with it. We take that on board and be like, okay, it is what it is. You know what I mean? So Adele went to a wedding in like June, right before her ADCC match with Anna Rodriguez. And I said to her, we need to be careful because it's not the training you're missing, it's the travel that you're doing and it's adding up on your body. And you know what I mean? It's adding up. And I told her she should go. You know what I mean? It's her wedding, and it's a wedding, and it's in Italy, and the family, everything, right? She
Okay.
went, she went, and you know, when we plan now, she wouldn't do that again. You know what I
Mm.
mean? But she made that choice and she lived with it and she doesn't regret it and she doesn't want to take it back. But in the future, she won't make that choice again
Yeah.
because it was too much for her and it was too much on her body and it did take too much time. But that's experience and you learn from these experiences. The best time to learn from these experiences is your white, blue, purple phase when you can make these mistakes and get them. And not too many people really care too much. I know there's some blue and purple belts at ADCC. I get that, but the majority aren't. So make those mistakes now. So when you get to black belt, you have this whole checklist of things that have happened throughout your career that you can deal with. You know what I mean? If I go to a tournament and they cancel my flight, I'm like this, man. I get the next one. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Or they lose my luggage, I get the next one.
Yeah.
Oh, they don't have the right breakfast. Oh, my opponent didn't show up. Oh man, I'm sick. Or my partner is yelling at me, or my daughter is angry, or whatever. Like, kicked it 10 times over, man. I've been through it. So I know how to deal with it, but I've only done it. So I can speak about it. You got to experience that stuff, man. And the shit stuff too. I've been on losing streaks. I've been embarrassed. I've been beaten on big stages in 30 seconds. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And it might happen again,
Yeah.
but I'm still here. I'm still doing it. I'm consistent over time. And that always wins out.
Yeah. Yeah. So, going back to Adele and your relationship with her, how did you guys cross paths? How did that happen?
Yeah, so we've both been on the Aussie scene for a while, man. She's from Melbourne, so it's the other side of the country.
Yeah.
So I'd always see her like tournaments, man, and just say hello. And then she moved here. Her partner is a dentist. Nev is a dentist, and she was studying at the University of Western Australia here. And she's super smart, man. She got like valedictorian. She aced it. She's fucking great. And I saw Adele was here, and I had a young, she's a purple belt at the time. She's a brown belt now. Female about Adele's weight, and I was like, man, if I could get Adele down to train with her, she's gonna get fucking really good. So I just messaged her and was like, hey, you should come to the gym. Like, we're the only one that kind of really does what we do around here. A couple of gyms try and copy, which is fine, but like results based, you know. So I was like, come down. So they started training, and Adele started to enjoy it. So she stayed a bit more, and then their relationship kind of bloomed from there. But we had our trials in that, man. There was some infighting in the gym, which secluded us from each other for a while because I had to take, one side. It was my ex-partner at the time and myself against Adele and Nev. So there was that. And then also I coached Adele wrong for a long time too, man. I was very ego driven, where I was like, I'm better than this girl, but she gets all the attention. And, she doesn't score a point on me in the training room, but people were like Adele, Adele, Adele. So it would come through in my coaching. And then, like we spoke about before, man, it wasn't until I started validating myself that I started to coach her properly and take that out to a point where now I literally don't care about, I'm very grateful I get to do these podcasts and I've got, sponsors because of it. And I'm grateful for it, but I didn't help Adele for that. And she knows that.
Wow.
And our relationship is 10 times better for it because I had to have that hard conversation with myself. Not her to me telling her, hey, I think you feel like this. Or I think, no, me to myself. Like, hey, man, you're treating her like this because you're jealous. You want the attention that she's getting and you're not getting it. Why do you need it? Like, why do you need people to be like Jake, Jake, Jake when you can be Jake, Jake, Jake?
Yeah.
You can just be happy with yourself, man. So when I started coaching her like that, then our relationship really bloomed, man. And then last year, Nogi World, she lost in the final. And, she wanted me to break down that footage. I didn't want to do it. I've never lost a world title and I think it's difficult. And I think she shit the bed and it wasn't going to be a nice breakdown. And she begged me in my living room to do it. And I fucking told it to her straight that she blew it and that she, this is what happens when you don't train like a professional and you just go with talent. Like someone's going to beat you.
Yeah.
And I said, you got two things to do. We can either fucking change this and you can listen, or you can keep doing what you're doing and you're going to have results. You're great. You are. But you're also going to have a lot of heartbreak. So it's up to you. And she's like, no, I want to do it. And now you see the evolving product, but you see, the 4 years come together because I was still coaching her the same, like aspects, professional, but they sink in more now. So then you see that, you know what I mean? And she's at the end of the day, the most important thing for me with her and anyone I coach, I spoke about the young female. She's not part of the team anymore, but she's super talented, world class, all those things, man. They're good people. And that's way more important to me than what you win. You know what I mean? The compliments I got the most at ADCC were like, man, she's just a good person, right? And I'm like, she is. She literally is.
Yeah.
She really is just a good person. She's a good role model. My daughter's 8, and Dell was here the other week, and they were just sitting here playing Nintendo Switch for hours. Her, Nev, and my daughter. They're like, she's a great role model for her, sorry. So like, that means more to me than, how talented you are. And I've turned down athletes or kicked athletes out of the gym because you are just not the right person. You know what I mean? And you're fucking good. They've gone on to win things, and they can turn around and be like, I told you so. And I'll be like, good, man. I'm glad. I'm happy for you. Yeah.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I got to be happy with the people around me, the people around my daughter, the people around my team. And it doesn't always add up.
Yeah. And how do you handle, I have a little experience with this, and I struggled with it. Super talented athlete, has everything you'd want in a background, just the flexibility, the strength, the speed, the pedigree, maybe some wrestling background, high level wrestling background, good jiu-jitsu, but they just don't know how to turn their own key and start the car. They can't get themselves going on their own. They need a push. How do you handle athletes like that?
Yeah, I mean, it depends, right? I think the real question I'd be asking is, do they actually want to achieve things in the sport, or do they not?
Yeah.
Are they happy with winning tournaments and losing tournaments and just getting by, or do they really want to do something great? If they really want to do something great, then you push them. If that's what they need, then you push them. Some people I'll hold their hand. Some people I'll never hold their hand. Some people I'll yell at. Some people I'll never yell at. Everybody's different, and you have to treat them different. You have to treat them as individuals, and you have to have a certain ability to connect to them. If Adele is a bit like that, right? Adele is a bit like, in terms of, I don't have to push her. She will do the work, but I have to mentally be there all the time for her and really keep her switched on and revert her back and have these conversations with her that are difficult conversations. And, because she can be a bit sensitive sometimes, and it's not a bad thing. It's not. It's just, we have to direct it in the right way. But if she didn't want to be great and she's got all the talent in the world, then I've learned to just let go, man. Just let go. And just you can't lead the horse to the water and make him drink, like I've lost too much time and too much, getting frustrated too much and losing my cool too much, because people, if they don't want it, man, you can't force it, and you never will. They're either going to go and learn themselves that, hey, I fucked up, and come back. So as long as they left on good terms, you can repair the relationship and help them from there. Or they're going to go and do something else and realize that it's not for them, because it's not for everybody, bro. The lifestyle looks great. You know what I mean? It's what's the time here? It's nearly 2:00 in the afternoon, and I get to talk to you, and I just finished training. And if I want to go to the beach, I can go to the beach, but it's not it, man. It's not. There's so much more that goes into it than that. So don't look at that. Like, it's up and down, man. I never judge an athlete within the first 6 to 8 months I start working with you, because it's honeymoon period, right?
Yeah.
Everything I tell you is new. So you love it, and you want to listen, and you want to learn because it's new. Then when it gets hard, or your missus is fighting with you, or your wife is fighting with you, or the bills are piling up, or you're losing tournaments or whatever, that's when I'm going to see who you are. And that's when I'm going to see what your character's like, and whether we can actually work together, and whether you will actually listen when shit hits the fan. You know what I mean? So when Adele went to ADCC, our first match was Maisa Bastos. Hardest match of the tournament. First round. She had to trust that the game plan that I had was going to win her that match, because we knew that was going to be the hardest one, right? Yeah. So every single thing we did prior to that tournament, she had to believe and trust in what I was doing, or she was going to lose. And if she lost, I get the blame.
Yep.
If she wins, she gets the credit. Yep. And I understand that. I'm fine with that. It does not bother me. But that's why I work so hard, to make sure that she always gets the credit, so that she does win. But it's a trust thing, man. I can only lead her as far as she wants to go. She wanted it. She wanted Maisa. She wanted that win. So she believed in the game plan, and she trusted the process, and it paid off. Wow. So it's difficult, man. That's why I say I can't work with every athlete. I can't. I know this. And people get upset about it. Oh, you say this, you say that, but you're really doing this and you're really doing that. Yeah, because you're different, man. We're not going to connect. It's just not going to work.
Yeah.
And that's okay, because you should find a coach that is going to work for you.
Yeah. Yeah. I have a little experience with that just for myself. We had just finished back in 2015 or 14, somewhere around there. There used to be two Las Vegas Opens. There was a spring and
Yep.
And a fall one. So we would go there. We'd go to Vegas. A bunch of us would go, and after we'd go out to the strip and do our thing, and I'm standing there with one of the guys, and I'm only a blue belt at the time, and one of the guys is saying, like, I was just talking about, like, people jumping around from school to school, because I didn't understand it. I didn't understand the needs thing. This is where it came. This is where I first heard it. And I was telling him, because I love my professor, Paul. He's an amazing guy. We've been together since day one. And I was telling the guy, his name's Matt. I said, I can't imagine leaving Paul. I don't understand why people are moving around. And he looks at me and he goes, people's needs change, right? People evolve. Like, he goes,
Yeah.
have you ever switched jobs? I'm like, well, yeah. He goes, your needs change. Maybe your vision for your life didn't align with their vision of their company. And I was like, I always compartmentalized everything at the time, right? Everything was like little separate buckets: family bucket, work bucket. And when he said that, I was like, oh my gosh, that makes perfect sense. So I use that all the time, man. When people leave, and people are like, oh, you must be devastated. I'm like, no, I mean, I just wasn't the right fit, and their needs changed. That's all that happened. It's no big deal.
Man, I have this quite a bit, like not quite a bit, not as much as I've heard from other gyms, but like I have, colored belts leave all the time that are talented or are good at jiu-jitsu, and, et cetera, et cetera. And you're like, oh, I'm like, man, how are they going to leave a gym when you just won this or you just won that? It's like, well, they want something different, and like, that's okay. The only qualm I have with that, man, is do it right.
Yeah.
Have the conversation face to face and say, unless you literally blew up and you just leave. But if you're just like, man, I just don't want to train here anymore, I want to go somewhere else, go in and speak to the person. Do not send them a text message canceling your membership and leaving when they've given you
Right.
years of their time on the mat. Because we all know as coaches, the time we spend on the mat is this much compared to what we give to our students every single day. And that is the only qualm I have, man, because I had this early in my life. I trained at this powerlifting gym. They let me train for free for like 4 or 5 years. The guy is a legend over here. He's a very intimidating person. He's very aggressive and hostile to people if you're not in his circle, like that kind of person, right? Lovely guy. If you're in his circle, he'll do anything for you. Let me train for free. About 4 or 5 years into that, the gym wasn't doing so well, so he wanted everybody that was training for free to pay. Jake, I need you to pay X amount of money to continue to train here. The gym needs to survive. No issues. Started paying, right?
Yep.
12 months later, I had my daughter. I hadn't been in the gym for 12 months, but I still paid because he had given me that time, right? And I understand not everybody's in that situation. If you can't pay, that's fine. It's different, right?
Yep.
6 months after my daughter was born, I still hadn't been in. So I was like, now it doesn't make sense because I'm trying to support my daughter and I'm spending X amount of money a month on something I'm not using, right? So my cousin is still a member there to this day, 15, 16 years later. I called him and said, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to go and speak to this guy and let him know. No sweat. I walked in there, not knowing how he was going to act, not knowing how he was going to be with me, scared shitless, because even though I was doing jiu-jitsu, he's a big dude, man. He's a power lifter, like in terms of like, he's 100+ kilos and he flips off. Like I was a blue belt at the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I had the conversation. I said, hey man, look, this is where I'm at. This is why I'm not here. I will always support the gym. I will do whatever I can. If I'm able to come back, I will, but I need to turn my membership off. Zero issues. I've seen him multiple times since then. I've been in the gym since then. We're completely fine. If I had texted him, I guarantee there would have been an altercation because he would have felt disrespected about the amount of time he let me in his facility, looked after me, and then I just text him.
Yeah.
And people do this in jiu-jitsu, and I know they do it in other sports too, but in jiu-jitsu all the time, man. If you're just a normal student that comes twice a week and you want to cancel your membership, just cancel it. It's okay. But if your coach gives you extra time, they're at tournaments for you, they're giving you game plans, they're answering questions outside of class time, all this stuff that you think is included in your membership, that is not included in your membership, that is just done because you have a good coach, appreciate that enough to walk in and say, hey man, I'm gonna go somewhere else. I really appreciate everything you've done because I guarantee the return will be no worries, man. Anytime you want to come back, the door is open.
Yeah, yeah. That's that's a great way to put it because it happens a lot. And sometimes people leave on bad terms. And I shouldn't say that, in my opinion. That's just my opinion, right? That's just
Yes.
my
Yep.
belief, right? Because, people may look at us as a service that we provide and they're paying for the
Hmm.
service, and therefore it's okay that they discontinue the service. But you know as well
Yep.
as I do, there's an attachment that you have with people.
Yep.
And I unfortunately get very attached. And it doesn't
Yeah.
have to
So do
be
I.
anything big, man. It could be
Yeah.
something like, I just taught this guy how to do this one little tweak to his technique, and he's hitting it right now. And I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
God, that's so awesome. And then just
Yeah.
have them disappear on you, you're like, oh man.
Yeah. And then like it's one of those things too. Like no matter how many times it happens, you always say you're not going to do it again, but you do,
You do.
and you do. You do. Man, the amount of times I've been like, yeah, I'm not gonna let anyone get close anymore. I'm just gonna treat everyone like a student. And then that one person, like a little bit, a little bit, a little bit, and then you get that hope that they're just not gonna do that. And some don't, man. I've had guys, I think I've got 6 black belts now, and I've
Right.
got 3 that I took from white to black.
Whoa, cool.
Obviously, yeah, white to black. Yep. So obviously, yeah, actually 3 of them were from white to black, which is cool. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's like, it's one of those things that it doesn't happen all the time, man. But when it does, it still hurts. But again, there's just the right way to go about it. You know what I mean? Like, and I think it's like you said before. This is social media age, man. This is what I think the kids need to learn too. You know what I mean? Like the kids coming up, they need to learn. The guys in my gym, the kids I have at the moment, man, they're so respectful. They're like they're next level respectful. Like, they use their pleases and thank yous, their sirs and ma'ams. They open doors. They'll clean without being asked. All these little things that like they add up, man, and they make you good people over time. That's important. And it's something we definitely factor in here at Essence, and now I do as a coach. Because again, it means way more to me than how many titles you got on the wall, man. That doesn't bother me.
And that's what it's all about. I mean, helping someone become a better human, man. That's really what it's all about. And I'm sure I'm sure you've experienced this. Well, when I started coaching, it was out of sheer necessity. Like there was
Yeah, yep,
nobody else to step in. I was
yep,
a 2-stripe blue belt, and our kids coach had just quit. And my
yep,
instructor's like, "Hey, you want to do it?" And I'm like, "Sure." And I just
yeah,
immersed myself in it. And it was it
yep,
was it was so awesome because, well, you know how it is. Like at the time, I needed all that external validation. I'd work my butt off, and then I'd go to pans and lose in the first round.
yep,
I don't want to go back on the mat. That's, you know what I mean. But
yeah, yeah,
class to teach on Monday, right?
yeah,
So I got to be back for the kids, and then they would just fill me with all this energy, and I was like, yeah, I'm back.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
I think sometimes I feel if it weren't for them, I would have taken a different path. Maybe I'd take some time
yep,
off. So
yep,
they helped me a lot. But so that's how I started my coaching life. And then um, when I talked to my wife about it, I said, "Hey, I think I'm going to start teaching the kids class." And she said, "Well, how serious are you going to get with this thing, right?" And I jokingly said, "Well, it's not like we're going to open an academy one day." And we just laughed,
yeah,
and here we are,
yeah,
4th year
yeah,
of the academy. So yeah,
yeah.
it's been a trip, dude.
It's funny how those things work out though, man. Like I've got my 2 black belts, my first 2 black belts. They started with me when I was, 15 years ago, and we used to train in the garage, just us 3 all together. They took a bit of a break at purple belt, a
Yeah,
couple of years. So I obviously got a little bit in front, and it's funny them seeing how I am now because to them I'm the same guy, and I am still the same guy. But
sure.
like all the accolades and the external stuff, they're like, man, we were talking about this, 10 years ago. You said you were going to do this and you said you're going to do that. And, it's nice to have people there that were there at the beginning,
Yeah,
see the struggles, see like one of my black belts, he's funny, man, because he always be like, man, these kids just don't know. They don't know what you went through. And I'm like, no, they don't, man. But that's okay because
yeah,
we went through that because of where we were at. They don't have to go through that because they have us. We
yeah,
can guide them and help them and stuff, like I would have taken the help 100%. And of course, multiple people help me, multiple people.
yeah.
But like in terms of like, how I'm coaching and blah, 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 like I would have taken it if it was available to me at that time too. So it's like, it's just funny, man. You get that little bit of, you know, remembrance of like, yeah, we used to just be like three white belts, man, in the garage. And now, you know, I've coached a multiple time ADCC champion from my city, man. Like I haven't even left my city. I'm still in Perth. I'm still in, bro, the Belmont is the suburb I live in.
Yeah.
It's nice now, but it wasn't when I grew up. It was pretty rough. And I'm still here. It's like I'm still just a kid from Belmont, man. It's nice.
Cool. Yeah. It's cool when it's when it's homegrown, man. That's really special. So it just, you know, just kind of wrapping up. I'm very curious. I always ask black belts, especially those that own academies, I always ask them two questions. The
Yep.
first one is what do you want all of your black belts to have in common? All the black belts that you promote, what do you want them to have in common?
Just good character, just good people, just people that when, you know, others walk into the academy, they can see someone that is kind, respectful, caring, obviously knowledgeable at what they do. They're not going to get a black belt if they're not, but you know, to get to that point, it shows so much determination and perseverance and whatever. But I think it's more important that a black belt is able to show someone that through all of that, you can still be a good person and still be enjoying what you're doing, no matter what age you are. And set that tone for everybody else in the gym. You know, it's very easy for me to talk about how respectful the kids are in the gym because my black belts are like that and my brown belts are like that. And then so on and so forth. So we actually probably lose more members than we keep in some aspects because if you don't fit in here or you don't do when I mean don't fit in, I just mean like don't follow the rules or don't follow like the principles and values. I don't mean like if you don't want to talk to anyone, but you shake everyone's hand, you're nice and things like that, of course you can stay. Then I'll just tell you can't be here, man, and you can leave. And I do it quite a bit, not quite a bit, like once every few months, maybe, man, once every 6 months. But like it happens, you know what I mean? It happens, and that's what I want from my guys. And you know, that's what I think we get the most, man.
Yeah.
Maybe we're well known for our competition record and our competition accolades and things like that until you walk in the gym. And when you get in the gym, you're like, man, it's so friendly here. It's so nice.
Yeah.
Like I have visitors that are like, man, I came in, I thought every round was going to be a war, but no one tried to kill me. Everyone was just trying to do jiu-jitsu. Like they're tough guys. Like it's hard. We have hard rounds, but no one tried to kill me. No one tried to prove anything. They don't need to, man. They just train every day. They know where they're at. They know what level they can get to, etc. So that's way more important to me, man, with my black belts, that they have good character.
Love it. Love it. And how do you want to be remembered?
I want to be remembered that I was able to use jiu-jitsu to two things, I think. One personal and then one more for like the sport itself. Personally, I just want to be remembered as someone that used jiu-jitsu as a vehicle to help people with their mental health, to help them understand that jiu-jitsu can be a vehicle and not a distraction to help you with your mental health. I suffer quite severely and I'm still able to function at this level. I'm able to reach people that I probably wouldn't be able to reach without the platform that I have. Not pretending I'm a superstar. My daughter actually told me the other day, she's like, Dad, you're like famous, but you're not actually famous, hey? And I was like, no, I'm not famous at all.
So funny.
Maybe just to her, but it's a platform for me to help people with their mental health and, you know, reach out to people. And I think that's the one thing I'd prefer to be remembered for. In terms of like accolades and impact on the sport outside of that, it's right now changing the landscape of the professionalism of the athletes and coaches. I think I really have what it takes to do that as a whole and really change the rhythm of what's happening. You know, there was a couple of people at ADCC that had professional coaches. You know, by next ADCC, I'd love to see more than half of each bracket have professional coaches in their corners, helping them. And I think, you know, with podcasts like yourself, letting me have a platform to talk about it, you know, using Adele as the vehicle, because obviously she's the forefront of my coaching as an athlete, etc. I have the ability to do that. And I'm also not scared to fail as well. I am proud and excited to try my best to try and do that. But I also understand that if I fail, I tried. And that's okay with me because I will give 100%. You know, I'm actually getting a tattoo, another one tomorrow about Kobe Bryant had a quote that he talks about. It's not word for word, but he says that my brain like cannot process failure because if I accept failure, to me, it's worse than death. And like, I think that is super important to me, because failing is quitting.
Yeah.
And like, I can do my best and not succeed and be okay with that. I can't be okay with just not trying or
Yeah.
quitting. It's just not in me.
Yeah. And I also love what Kobe said along the same lines of failure. He's like, I didn't fail. I just figured out how to not do something.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I
Well,
mean? And then, and like you said before, man, like you can always change your scope of your life, and you can always change your goals, and that's okay. If you come to me and say, I want to be a world champion, and 6 months later, you really don't want it, man. You don't like the life. It's too much. Like, be honest with yourself. You will be so much happier when you do that. And
mm,
as long as you have the people around you, which you should, if you're trying to achieve these goals, they will support you, man. They will be happy for you. When I tell like my friends or like, the people around me, hey, man, I'm going to be that coach that changes shit around here. I'm going to be that guy. They don't laugh at me, man. They're like, yeah, you are. You're going to be that guy.
yeah.
And then I say it to other people in the gym or outside the gym, and they laugh. I'm like, they don't know me, man. So
Yeah.
it's okay to choose to do something else and you be okay with it if everybody else is going to laugh, because it doesn't matter what they think. It doesn't, as long as you're okay with it. So if you decide, hey, it's not for me anymore, do that.
Yeah.
And it's okay.
Yeah. So I was in sales for, oh gosh, almost 20 years. And
Yep.
one of my favorite books was a guy named David Sandler. That Sandler sales system is like very, very famous. And he wrote a book called You Can't Teach a Kid to Ride a Bike at a Seminar. And
Yep.
it's kind of like takes you all through his sales process. But the first two or three chapters are all about you as an individual.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
he calls it your role versus your identity, right?
Yes.
And it just failing at your role that's not who you are. That's not your identity. But
Hmm.
until like you and I talked about seeking the outside validation, until you figured out who you really are and what your roles are around that, you can't
Hmm.
truly be that coach. You can't truly be that mentor. You can't truly, love someone because you don't really love yourself yet. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Yep.
And it's
And it's
it's
it's so spot on, man. And like you're so spot on, man. And that was in all aspects of my life, not just as an athlete or as a coach, but as a father as well, man. Like I take my role as a father. That's my number one job. It's my priority. Nothing will come in the way of that. Adele knows this too. If we had to go to ADCC and my daughter wasn't well, I'm not at ADCC, man. She knows that. Like, there's no blurring of that line. That's it. And my guys know that in the gym. If my daughter has a sports carnival on a Friday and we've got pro practice, I'm not at pro practice, man.
yeah,
Yeah, I'll make it up for sure. I'm an athlete. I'm a professional. I'll find time to train. I
yeah,
won't just be lazy, but I won't be at that session because my daughter is my priority. But for me to be the best dad I can be, I need to make sure that I like myself. And I tell people this all the time, man, because I do cop a bit of flack and whatever, and I'm okay with it because I like myself.
yeah,
I like, I can be alone and I'm okay. You know what I mean? I can hang out with my dog and I'm okay. I can train jiu-jitsu in a room I don't know anyone and I am okay. It does, you know what I mean? It's not a big thing that has to come from somewhere else all the time.
yeah, yeah. I've got one more question for you, and I wrote it down, and it was
Yep.
on the back. It was on the back of the page, so I almost missed
Yep.
it.
No, bro, shoot as much as you want.
If you've got a if there was a coach that was let's call him a pretty good coach, okay,
Hmm.
but he or she wants to get to another level. They want to be
Hmm.
a better coach.
Hmm.
And I'm talking like someone that balances life like you do. Like you have, pro competitors, you have your academy, you have your what I hate the word hobbyist, but you have the people that do jujitsu for
Sure.
fun, right?
Yes.
And
Yep.
and there's a balance there, right? What would your how would you coach that coach to get to that
Hmm.
next level they want to get to?
Yeah, so it obviously still goes back, and everything kind of reverts back to, man, like what your goal is. If your goal is to be able to coach professionals at a high level, or build your gym up to a certain level or whatever, then we got to start with that. That's the goal, right? And we work back from there. Like I said before, man, there's a process for all of this stuff, and every other sport gives you that blueprint on what to do. So take college football is one of the ones that I love the most, man. A lot of college football coaches or college basketball coaches start their coaching journeys in the video room. You would be surprised at how many coaches started in the video room and ended up as head coaches because they're learning how to do the job on the job. So as a coach, get a mentor, study, read books, ask questions. Do not be so closed-minded that you think you know it all. I don't. When I wasn't coaching Adele at ADCC, man, I was staring at Danaher nonstop. I was staring at Dimmer nonstop. Greg Souders nonstop. Now, in a coaching role, I coached against some amazing coaches at ADCC, and I feel like I did a pretty good job, right? Doesn't mean that I can't learn as well. What are they doing? Why are they doing it? Some things I thought were atrocious, man. I thought it were terrible. And I was like, wicked. I learned I would never do that.
Yeah.
And then other things, you know, Andre, I learned a lot from Andre, and it wasn't technique, man. It wasn't stories about ADCC history and his career. Like, don't get me wrong, he was amazing like that, and it was great. But how he is with people and how he interacts with these people and how he interacts with such a big team, man. Like, the team had so much success, but if you watched him throughout the day, he was not in anyone's face at any point throughout the day. He was not the focal point of anybody throughout the day until they needed him. And then he was. So there was a lot of things, man. I do this all the time. I don't just study athletes, or I don't just study tape. You know, I don't just study. I can't announce Del's next fight, but she's got a nice opponent that she's going to verse next, and pretty recognizable coach. So I don't just study her athlete. I study the coach too, man, because I want to know what he's going to do for her, so that when we sit down, not only has Adele worked harder than she has, I've worked harder than the girl has to get a game plan. And then I've also worked harder than the coach to figure out what he's going to do. So will he come up with something that surprises me? Maybe. Guy Mendez did. But then I've done so much work that I'm ready for it. And then we can prepare on the fly. And my athlete trusts me so much that when I call a switch or I call an audible, she trusts that that's the right one. So that comes from repetition and learning, man. Take the white belt mindset. I think that's the best analogy for jiu-jitsu in anything, right? Take the white belt mindset of, I do not know it all. I can learn. You know what I mean? When I talk about this stuff about coaches, like, man, you can put yourself in that position. You can, but you can't do it by just doing the same things you're already doing and pretending that you're a professional coach, man. Yeah. You winning your rec center championship is not you winning ADCC. It's not the same. Give it the same respect, man. You know what I mean? Like, give it the respect that don't try and tear these coaches down. Try and learn from them. No, I'm not a big fan of like naming things. Like, I think that's very marketing, and you've got a background in sales. It's very salesy. Yep. I'm going to call it this. Therefore, the white and blue belts are going to buy it because, you know, it's different, when really they're talking about the same thing. You know, like, the perfect example is the ecological approach. AOJ have been doing that for years and years, man. They just didn't name it. So should this guy capitalize on it? 100%. Like, don't get me wrong, making money is a great thing. Yeah. But you still need to understand what the core of the process is. And it's to get your athlete to that level that they are great. And there is a process for that as a coach too. And accept that. Accept the fact that you're going to have to put in more work, that you're going to have to do things that are uncomfortable, that you're going to have to learn from people that you probably don't want to learn from. You know what I mean? And that's okay.
Yep. Yeah, that's the hardest part, right? I mean, you know, setting the ego aside and just doing what's best for the athlete, right?
Yep. And again, man, it's one of the hardest things to do, which is why there are not a lot of great athletes. There are a lot of good athletes, and there's a lot of athletes that are better than I am. So I'm not saying that, but there are not a lot of, you know, there's 2 came out of ADCC. All the ADCC champions are great, but there were 2 that came out that are on the path that could be GOATs. It's different, right? Yeah. You know what I mean? It's not winning 1 title or 2 titles. It's setting yourself on a path that can set you up. You know, Kynan's already there. He's got what, 4 now? I think he's got 4. Yeah. So Gordon's got 7. So could Kynan reach him? 100%. You know, Gabby's got 4. Kira's got 3. Adele now has 2. Could she reach them? 100%. So you separate yourself from the pack. That's the difference. You know what I mean? If I won ADCC, would I be complacent? Probably. It's fucking amazing. It's the biggest tournament in the world. But I'm not trying to be the greatest athlete on the planet. Yeah. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
had a good career, but I can be the greatest coach. So you won't outwork me as a coach. You won't outwork my students if you're going to try and beat them. You know, that's the mentality that we have 24/7. It doesn't switch off. That's why it's a blessing and a
Wow.
curse.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I think Chris Rock once said, if ignorance is bliss, then he's in hell because he notices everything.
Everything. And I'm very much the same, man. And again, blessing and a curse. I've got to where I am, you know, and my daughter has a great life because of jiu-jitsu. I have a great life. I think a lot of my off the mat achievements kind of rival my on. You know, I own my own apartment, I own my own car, I own my own gym. You know, 90% of world champions can't do that. And I have no investors and I don't have a rich family.
Ah,
So,
nice.
you know, jiu-jitsu paid for that. So like there's a way to do it, you know what I mean? But like, sorry, that's my dog. But like Chris Rock said, man, the details are crazy. You know what I mean? I could go into so much detail about what I do as a coach that has nothing to do with on the mat and everything to do with off the mat. And it could be overkill, but it's working. So at the moment, it's like we do not fix it. We just keep learning.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Well, let everybody know where they can find you, all the social medias and all the other good stuff.
Yeah, so JCOD _ Essence BJJ is my profile. Follow me on there or send me a message, or the Essence BJJ page, same thing. I just made my profile private. I did that on purpose to help with my own mental health and you know, my own ability to get away from the bullshit and the toxicity. But that doesn't mean I won't accept your follow. You know, it's just to clear my mind of some stuff. The links to my Patreon and my mentor programs are there too, so you can hit me up about those. Those are for absolutely everybody. You know, there's enough on there for absolutely anybody. And then if you are an athlete that wants to go from good to great, send me a message, explain what you want to do. We can link up and talk about it. I cannot guarantee that I have the time to take you on, but if I don't, I will find someone that does, or I will be able to take you on. But it will be a discussion. I don't just do that for the money, man. That's a different kettle of fish altogether. And all the blue belts that, you know, message me talking shit, just leave me be. I'm an old man. Just leave me be.
Oh,
Let me
man.
be in peace.
Those are my favorites. Those are my favorites.
They're good people, bro. We need them in this world.
100%, 100%. Thank you so much for coming on, man. It's been an absolute pleasure, man. And this has been very educational. I got a lot of notes. I'm stealing a lot of stuff from you, but
No, you're welcome, man.
yeah, but no, one thing I want to be, I want to be, I don't want to be a good coach. I want to be a great coach. And I think
Yep.
I'm just gonna follow your lead, man. So you're gonna be my digital mentor.
Oh man, you're more than welcome to reach out anytime. Like I am honestly that kind of space too, man. The coaching space. I've spoken to I don't know if it's a rival podcast or not, but BJJ Mental Models. I've been
Those
working with them
bastards. No, I'm just kidding.
just recently, and they actually brought that up, man, about me doing some kind of coaching for coaching kind of project. I'm not sure. Them and Adele's manager Sarah, they're the brains, man. I just get told what to do. But
Yeah.
if you are a coach and you do find value in what I've said, send me a message because I'm more than happy to help. I do not think I know it all, and I do not judge. So if you just reach out, I'm more than happy to give you my opinion. At the end of the day, that's all it is. It's just my opinion, and then you can take it how you like to take it.
Yeah, that's gonna be worthwhile. I think one of the things that we're missing as a community in general is I don't know, I don't necessarily want to say a standardization, but something like coaching the coach, because a lot of
Yes.
the coaches like me, you just kind of fall
Yep.
into it almost by accident.
Yep. Yep. And this is, sorry, man, to backtrack on our previous conversation. This is why I'm not having a go at coaches that just run gyms like their instructor did. I
Yeah.
did the same thing, man, for a long, long time, because that's what I knew. And that's what other people showed me. And then when I went to another gym, it was very similar. Maybe the warm up was different, or maybe they taught technique before they sparred, or they taught technique up, like, but it was the same, right? And I was like, okay, like, this is okay, but then there's got to be a better way. There has to be, you know what I mean? And then all my study and stuff with the other sports and blah, 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 I was able to take things across and work things out. But that's why I say to these coaches, don't be negative on yourself. Don't be upset if you don't know what you don't know. You know what I mean? So it's okay to reach out and be like, hey, how do you do it? And then you might not even like doing it that way. And that's okay. But you
Yeah.
might be like, oh man, I didn't even think of that. You know what I mean? Like that's a great idea. You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
had that yesterday. Someone said something to me. I can't now. I've forgotten it, but they said something to me, and it was very similar to what I already do. And I was like, why am I not doing that? Like that makes so much more sense to what I should be doing than what I am doing. And
Yeah.
it was just like an off the hat kind of comment. And I was like, duh, like, do
Yeah.
that then. You know what I mean? Like it happens sometimes. Sometimes it just takes a conversation like this to open that door, and then you walk through it, and all these other opportunities open up.
Yeah. Do you follow a guy named Jesse Itzler?
No, no, but I will.
It's
Can you send it to me?
Yeah, I'll send it to you.
Yeah,
He's
thanks.
married. I can't remember his wife's name, but they're both like super wealthy. He owns a portion of the Atlanta Hawks. No,
Right.
the Hawks, the
Yep.
basketball team. The
Yeah, that's the Hawks. That's the Hawks.
Okay, so the Hawks,
Yeah.
and then and he also owned a like a private jet company, but he didn't own any
Right.
jets. It was interesting. He sold the
Yeah.
company to Warren Buffett, which is kind of cool. But
Yeah.
anyway, he said a couple things. First thing he said that really stuck with me is experience takes too long. Just
Hmm.
just give it a try. Just jump in there and do
Yeah.
it, you know? And
Exactly.
yeah, and the second thing he says is well, the experience takes too long. Wait, it really stuck with me. But he's really the guy that he even though you don't quite know how to do it, just press play. And like you
Yeah.
said, like, for instance, what you said earlier about starting in the film room, that is so obvious now. Like you said, like if
Yeah.
somebody tells you, like, oh yeah, but he says basically the same thing. Like the blueprints are there. All you got to
Yeah.
do is follow.
Yeah. And you do, man. Just look for them. And,
Yeah,
like if you can't find them, ask.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Like ask the person, man, where do you study from? Like a perfect example is Danaher, right? People hear him talk about, oh, he studies 8 hours a day. Who has ever asked him what resources he uses to study?
right,
I
yeah,
bet you, I bet you whoever's asked him is just as knowledgeable as he is. I bet you Brian Glick asked. I bet you Brian Glick knows what he studies, what
yeah,
platforms he uses and whatnot, because like that's the blueprint,
yeah,
right? He's showing you this is what I'm doing. Now, 8 hours might be extreme, but like he's obviously doing something that's working.
yeah,
So why not? Why wouldn't you not just ask him? You know what I mean? Or whatever other coach you want to learn from, or what? Like I said, whatever other athlete, man. I don't. I think maybe if I've done 100 athletes, maybe 5 have never replied to me, and they might not have even seen my message. You know
right,
what I mean? I started mentoring with JT Torres a couple of years ago, maybe during COVID, because we couldn't train. And I just literally was sending him a message. Oh man, like that looks cool. Like whatever move he did, he replied. And I was like, bro, do you coach online? And he's like, no, but I probably could. And I was like, let's do it. And then that moved to like Ash Williams and so on and so forth. But it was literally just a conversation of like, hey man, can you coach me? And he's like, okay. And then the biggest kicker is I paid him money.
yeah,
Like I gave him money to do it,
yeah,
because the other thing is people just want everything for free. But when I hire an aircon expert to fix my aircon, he don't work for free, man. You know what I mean? So
hell no.
you can't expect me to work for free. I don't work for free.
Yeah,
Oh, but you've got all this knowledge to pass on. You can help. I do help. I'm a good person, but I also need to make money.
yeah,
And there's a stigma in jiu-jitsu. If you make money, you're an asshole. It's like, what do you mean? Like,
no,
we got to get paid, right? Like,
yeah,
so that's the other thing. Like when you reach out and you want to work with someone, you know what I mean? Maybe they do give it to you for free, but give them that option. Don't
yeah,
expect it. You know what I
right.
mean? Every gym I go to, man, me and Lachlan Giles are pretty good friends. Every time I go to his gym, the first thing I say is, can I pay for today's session? And he
Mm,
never says yes.
right.
Never. But I will ask every single time, because the one day he says yes, I'll walk up to the counter and pay and come back and train,
Yep,
because he earned that right. I'm
yep,
in his gym on his mat learning from him. So
yeah,
he's earned that right. It's not because we're friends that I should get everything for free. And then when we're not friends, people expect more shit free. It's
right.
like, no, pay for it, man. It's you'll get more out of it. Trust me.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Well, listen, man, this has been awesome. I really enjoyed the conversation. And if you're ever in Arizona, I'd love to get you in the studio. It's actually just a bed
Awesome.
my house.
Yeah, wicked. We actually might be out doing a bit of a tour end of November, December, man. I don't know where we're at. Probably gave a hint where we're going to be competing. There's an
Yeah.
event being announced in December, but in terms of like being around, I know Adele wants to do a bit of a seminar tour, and she needs me to hold her hand. So I'll see if we can get something done, man. That'll be good.
I will keep in touch with you and make sure that if we can't host it, we will definitely bring a team and support it.
Wicked. That'd be great.
Awesome, man. Thank you again, Jake, and thank you so much for taking the time. And I'm very appreciative for your time, and looking forward to meeting you in person.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. All right, hang on one second. Let me just stop the recordings.
This episode is brought to you by BioPro Plus. BioPro Plus is the faster, easier, and safer non-synthetic alternative to painful, expensive, and invasive anti-aging hormone treatments. The growth factors in BioPro Plus have the unique ability to regulate and restart the body's natural sex hormone production, and it also assists in raising glutathione levels, improving immune response, repairing DNA, promoting enhanced protein absorption, and supporting self-differentiation and proliferation. I don't know what any of that means, but I can tell you this. I've been using this stuff for about a year, and my ability to recover is through the roof. I'm training jiu-jitsu 3 times a week. I'm lifting weights 2 times a week, and the amount of time it takes for me to recover has reduced significantly. I'm 51 years old, and as an aging grappler, I got to do everything I can to stay on the mats. So I go through a pretty regimented recovery system, and BioPro. I also use the evening version. I forget what it's called, but it's fantastic. Get this stuff. Go to www.bioproteintech.com and put the promo code Foxcast. Promo code Foxcast will get you $30 off your order. Hit them up. You won't regret it.